Hey, so I'm wearing a new dress. Let me show you. I got it on sale. I had the credit at this, store, and I went there and I was looking for stuff and I found it, and I'm really happy with it. I think that I've been wearing a lot of dresses lately, and I think that this one, like, I'm gonna get good use out of it, which is kind of like what I hope when I get any article of clothing. I want to use it a lot. I want to enjoy using. Okay, whatever. But let me move on to what I really wanted to talk about. So basically, I have a new psychiatrist. Like, I think I've already complained a lot about like my previous psychiatrist, and now we started with this new one, and I'm really happy with her so far. We changed the medication a little bit. There was this medication. I've been putting a lot of weight lately, and I mean right now I think it's at a control level, but for the longest time I was putting on weight, and it has to do with medication. So we're trying to get a new one on top of the previous one that was getting me to put on weight, to see how it goes. But I'm taking like the pills from my endocrinologist, to kind of like contain my hunger. And she did ask me something, whether I was feeling fat because I put on weight and I was eating too much, or because I was bloated. And honestly, I think it's a bit of the two, because so what I've been noticing is that, because I've been going back and forth with my weight, it is around like, it seems to kind of like be oscillated between 72, 75, 76 kilos, and I want to be at the 72 mark so I can start losing it. But the point is that sometimes, like, when I look at my body when I'm 76 and a 72, it kind of like looks the same, so so I feel like that there's a level of like bloating that we had to take into account. But yeah, so I'm starting with this new psychiatrist. I'm doing okay, like my head, although I will say that, like, from a couple of days to now, I'm starting to worry that I might be getting to a manic episode, because I'm eating more and more. My spending has gone up, and I'm feeling amazing. Basically, all the things that used to bother me, they're not bothering me. I'm able to kind of like just push them away. And I mean, maybe this is just me being more stable, because this is something I've been trying to do for the longest time. So maybe I finally got to this point where it is happening. But I do think it's a little too much, because some things are not bothering me at all. And so yeah, so there is like this concern. We're just like observing. I'm observing myself, my parents are observing me, and we're keeping my new psychiatrist in the loop. But the past couple of days I've been eating a lot. Like, it really increased. Like, my hunger has really increased. There's that. And also, I think I have more energy too. Like, I wanted to go places and do things. Yesterday I went out with my mom, and we ended up going to a mall that we have that's like half an hour, 40 minutes away, and ended up getting a ride with my dad, and then we kind of like just went there everywhere. I like to look at things, and went to some supermarkets and all that, and I didn't spend a dime. So like, that was good. I think it's because my mom was there to just be like, don't. And I was like, okay, I won't. Because the day before I went out by myself, and I ended up spending it wasn't like a lot of money, but like, I didn't really need to spend anything at all. So like, even the little that I spent, like, that was kind of it made me a little unhappy, to say the least. But apart from that, like, I've been doing well. Yesterday, I actually, because there's like, I like assembly puzzles, and it's been months since the last one that I opened this 5,000 piece puzzle, and I haven't really touched it for months. And yesterday I started like assembling things, and it was great, because I've been struggling with like sitting down and like writing my novel. This is another sign, because usually when I'm stable I can write, even if I'm like a little here and a little down here, I can still write. And like lately I haven't really been able, like, no words have been coming to me. I'm like really struggling. And also the whole thing of like me being feeling well, what also happens is that I don't really care for the future. I don't really care about like legacy, about what's going to happen. So that is also, I think, a part of like why I'm not really writing, because I don't really have this sense of completion. Like, I don't care about finishing this novel, and that's pretty much the thing. I don't care about anything. So like, the bad things that used to kind of like bother me, and not caring about them, but also the positive things that I kind of like that I have in my life. I'm also kind of like very like, they also like don't mean a whole lot to me, which is very frustrating, because like right now it's January, so it's like kind of like vacation time, and it is summer here, and like, this is the time I think I like my conditions, they're so ideal for me to just sit down and write, and I'm not really getting any progress, and that's a little frustrating. But once again, I don't care. like that's pretty much, I had like no fucks left to give, about anything, but like not in a depressive way, more, as I said, like more manic, because I'm excited about life, I'm excited about like doing things, but I said nothing about the future, just like the present, so there's that. But all things considered, like it is great not to, be thinking about death at the end and craving those things. It's good that I'm just, living life, even if things are not going, they're not happening like in a sustainable manner, because as I said, I'm having a lot of free time these days, and I really wanted to use this free time to work on my novel, to advance things, so there's that. Also, something that happened the other day is that I got to a point where I was just so done with everything I was thinking. To be fair, I was thinking a whole lot of things, my brain was just jumping from topic to topic, and I was feeling this, like I think a couple of days ago, like when I was going to bed, I was like just so done with everything, and then the next day I started to kind of like not give a fuck about anything. So like it is, I think it's connected, and I'm taking this new medication that it can kind of like affect my sleep, but honestly this past couple of weeks, like I have been with like some more energy, so I lay down and it takes me a little while to fall asleep, not because I'm having negative thoughts or like I'm spiraling, just because I don't seem to be tired, which is something that it kind of like can be associated with like this mania, like maybe I'm like in a hypomania, because like things are happening, but like it's not like awful, like I'm not having the riskiest of behavior, I'm still kind of like a little controlled, as I said, I went out yesterday with my mom, we didn't really buy anything, and I think that if I was too like consumed by this state, like I would have one way or another I would have gotten something. So it's kind of like a hypomania, or like this state before the mania hits its peak, but as I said, like I'm just taking it slowly, because I can't really control when I have episodes, I can't really control what's going to happen, but like I think being observant is like the best, it's like kind of like the solution for things, because you notice that things are starting to get here, you communicate with the mental health professionals in your life, and that's kind of that. Also, I'm doing therapy every other week, and the last time, like I had less to say. I don't know if it's because I wasn't growing as much, or if it kind of like the result of like me, yeah, like things being okay. But yeah, so that was just something I observed, and I don't have therapy next week. I do have, but because I'm having right now, the way it's aligning is that I have 1 week I have therapy with my the private therapist, and the other week is with the therapist at the health center, and I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to say, because as I said, like I'm just at this point where it is very so like I'm doing well, but then I'm not. But this past couple of days I've been doing, like I'm feeling great, and I think it's a result of like me not caring, because as I said, like I'm seeing things, I'm seeing the news, I'm watching the news, I'm seeing what's happening, and like those things are not bothering me so much, and that feels great. The fact that I cannot do things, that I've been struggling, like that is not so good, and the thing is that I've been kind of on this digital detox, but since the last video that I recorded, like that hasn't kind of, I fell back into old habits, so I've been kind of like just going, the only social media I have like is YouTube, so like I've been coming back here, like watching stuff, and because I'm restless, I think that's kind of like the issue here, I'm restless, and because of that I'm kind of struggling to I keep jumping from thing to thing, and I'm trying to have, and my therapist did give me some advice. She said that I should probably try to find hobbies and things to be interested that are not from in front of a screen, because like that has like an effect on like your brain, and also I don't know, like things are kind of unreliable in a way, so I'm trying to like move away from that, but it's been kind of like an issue. I think that the past couple of days I've been doing better, but I was very frantic, even like I say a couple of days ago, because like I think I needed stimulation and I wasn't really getting it, so I was jumping from thing to thing. For example, like I was, like watching a movie or something before I go to bed, like I wasn't, nothing was, doing it for me, so I kept jumping from one to the other, and in the end I go to nothing, and again I just kind of like even shut it down. It's interesting because even like music, which I also listen to when I'm going to bed, I usually like for 30 minutes, like this sleep time, the sleeper time, and usually I fall asleep before that, but these days I haven't really been that. And then when the 30 minutes are up, I don't really put anything again. I'm just like, I don't know, I think that nothing is really sticking with me. I'm kind of restless, as I said, and there are things that I can do. They're very helpful. For example, going for a walk, even if like there's no it doesn't have to have a point, just going somewhere. These things, they're kind of like happening. And as I said, like I think I had like a little surge of energy, so like these things are also good to kind of like soothe me. How you do with children, you're trying to kind of tire them out, so they would sleep, they would be less frantic. And I think the same thing's happening to me. I'm just like doing things that are getting me like less frantic. But yeah, so my goals for the near future, I want to go back. I restarted exercising, and with my little machine, and I stopped for a little while because I was like very low energy. But like now that I have the surge of energy, I want to go back to doing it. So I was probably like not doing it for like a week. That was really tired. I even tried to get up and going, but like I end up like getting very tired very quickly. So like right now that I'm back, I want to go back to doing like an hour per day, and an hour on top of the other things that I do, like Zumba class, swimming. I have no swimming this month, but there's that. And like going out for a walk with my parents, like that is another thing that I want. I want to do my 1 hour on top of that. So that is my goal for fitness. I want if I'm noticing that I'm struggling to get to stay steady, to focus in one thing, I want to go to my puzzle, because that is something that I can do, and I think it's good for your head, and it's also good for it's good for your head. Like it's good in various ways. It's good because I'm restless, so I'm like doing something, I'm putting my energy to use in a constructive way, and also like it's good for like keeping young, for memory, all of that. And it's something that like there is an element of like looking forward to finishing that, looking forward to the future. So I am so that's something that maybe I need. I will say that one of the positives of like me being kind of like careless is that my financial situation, I think I mentioned this before, this month is a little rough, but I think things are going to get better next month, actually even like the second half of the month, although if they do get better, like I won't get to pay right away, so there's that. But like I think things can improve, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm not anxious, I'm not desperate, I'm not hating myself for things, so that is good. That's a good progress. And I hope that this is not just happening because I'm in this I don't give a fuck state, but I hope this lingers. I hope that I can handle like uncertainty this way better, because I think like sometimes uncertainty is the thing that really gets me, because things are bad, but like I naturally have hope that they're going to get better, and I think that is kind of like a problem. I don't want to be too optimistic because like I think that just leads to frustration, but I do want to I don't know, I want to think of, be like, I don't know, be more positive, I guess, that, like things can change, that things are changing, and that we're having some bad changes, but that, things can go back to changing for the better, like I really want that to be the case. And I don't know, like I have no certainty, but I think like being comfortable with yourself despite certainty, because I think that is pretty much what I was doing for the longest time. I was looking for signs that things are going to get better, but you don't always have signs, so you have to be okay despite like the things happening. So there's that. But yeah, so I'm relaxed and I am taking one day at a time, And even if I don't have a lot of like perspective, for the future right now, there are still things you can keep on doing. Sometimes, because I feel like sometimes my brain really wants things to align in a certain way. I want like there should be a point to the things that I'm doing, but sometimes you can do kind of like pointless things. You can just do something just for like your immediate pleasure, like for the gratification. I think that that's an issue that we're all having with like instant gratification, and I'm not immune to that, but I do think that there are things, for example, writing, like that's a good example. I have some gratification as I'm doing it, so like, and that's healthy. It doesn't have to be on a screen, it doesn't have to be social media. It can just be small things. For example, a puzzle, like I'm seeing it forming, and that is something that is giving me this kind of like sense of accomplishment. So yeah, so basically, so as I said, puzzles, exercise. I'm gonna try to write. I'm going to maybe, honestly, I'm like focused on the novel, but there are other things I want to write, so I'm going to try and change it, because maybe I'm not really working well with like this particular story, but like there are other stories that I also want to tell, that I can do something about it. And honestly, like, be happy with just like small accomplishments, because sometimes like you want something big, something very significant, but like those big things are just far in between, and that's okay. So I think you have the thing about instant gratification, is that like you have to find like little things that kind of like keep you going, and that is basically where I am at. Finding enjoying things. I'm trying to escape food, because that has always been like an instant gratification for me, and something that brought me joy, and I'm still going to eat, but I want to control it a little bit more. And I have been finding that this past couple days I actually was like with more hunger than usual, but I do feel like there was an increase on my self-control, so that is pretty good. I'm happy about that. But yeah, but like, life is a thing. I know it's a cliche, but when life gives you lemons, make some lemonade. I try to figure out like what would be lemonade for me in this metaphor, and it's okay for me not to have the answers. I think I just have to keep on thinking about it, and eventually the answer is going to come to you. And I think that is something I can say with confidence, because I have so many examples in my life of like me not being certain right away, but then like after a while I figure it out. And that is kind of like the mentality I want to have. It's okay that things are not certain. It's okay that you don't have like a concrete action plan. As I said, take every day as it comes. So if today doesn't work out, you try again tomorrow. Like, no hopelessness, no helplessness. Just keep on trying. And life is good, man. Like, life, I'm excited about life. As I said, I am not having thoughts of death, which is kind of like huge for me, and I'm really happy about this growth. And I mean, there's the fact that maybe the reason why I'm like this is because I might be getting to like a manic episode, but I'm not thinking about that. I'll keep being observant, of like what's happening with my head, but I'm not going to jump to conclusions, because there is like this fact that me kind of like rediscovering who I am as a person, because for so long I was so burdened with trauma, and like this weight of life, and what I wanted and what didn't happen and all of that I kind of like lost sight of who I was as a person. And the past couple of years I've been realizing like, oh, I'm a person full of joy. Depression, which was kind of like the default for so long, like that is, I mean, it's me, it's a version of myself, but like that is not, the version that I want to have. I want to have the unburdened version. I want to have the joyous version, and this is me. So there's like the fact I have to wonder whether sometimes like am I getting a little manic, or this is just regular me, because the thing of energy, I have ADHD, so I have more energy than the average person, I guess, and even if it's not the same level of energy I had when I was a kid, it's still kind of like it can be a lot, and sometimes you just need, so as I said, like I don't know if this is me having too much energy because of mania, or if this is me normal, but I have ADHD, so I have I'm just having a good week basically. There are negative things that are happening or that have happened, but I'm not letting them get to me, and as a consequence I'm just enjoying life. So regarding my fantasies, there's this new fantasy that kind of like it has come to my attention basically, and it's not great, and I don't really know what to do. It kind of like pairs with the thing that I said of like you can beat them, join them, which doesn't really work, because it's not like my principles have changed and my morals have changed, so I can't really like adhere to like this, to the opposite of what I'm thinking. But the opposite is kind of like the feeling I have is that they're winning, and I'm tired of losing basically. And so like my head is kind of like creating the scenarios in which there's kind of like a point to that, a way that I can benefit from that basically, because I think that's what I want. Like things are bad, but like how can I benefit from this? Not benefit from things being bad, but like despite things being bad, like what can I do to advance myself, my life, and that. And I have, friends that have pretty much been like that, and there's kind of like a theme going on, but like I don't know, like it's kind of like weird, because that is, I don't, doesn't feel like a good use of my time. I mean, no fantasy feels like a good use of my time. I mean, the ones about like my stories, like there's something there, but the ones, other fantasies, like they kind of like don't lead anywhere. I mean, they can bring you joy and keep you going. Like that is something that happened to me a lot when I was younger. Like the only thing keeping me going were those fantasies I had, even if like at that time I thought they were plans, they were not. It was just fantasy. So, like when you're struggling, like that can be good, but I'm not really struggling right now. So I don't want any fantasies, I just want to enjoy my time, my life. And it's interesting because a lot of like the fantasies that I usually have, like as I mentioned, like my brain's kind of done with them. So like they're not really appealing to my brain. So I'm kind of, stuck in this limbo where I have nothing to think. But the thing is, like, it's not like a peaceful nothing. It's a very chaotic, very energetic nothing. I get restless basically, and just sitting with my restlessness, and that is not comfortable basically. And maybe it's an exercise in feeling comfortable with discomfort, because that is also part of life. It's also like a skill that you should have. Otherwise, life is going to be harder for you. And I'm trying to just make things easier, like I'm trying to figure out like how can I exist with like less of a burden, because I've been able to deal with my traumas. There's that. I still feel some fear in some of like the worst case scenarios that I think. I still feel, in some ways like I don't know, I still feel, like there's still like the pain that comes with that. So I don't want to feel this pain. This is pretty much what's been happening this week. I'm not feeling that pain. Like I don't care, and I hope that, I wish that this was, more common for me. And I do think that I'm making progress. And I do think that maybe there's like an altered state here that I have to consider, and that is like the reason why I'm like doing so well. But it can also be an exercise. I can kind of like try and, feel better based on what is happening, instead of, feel better despite what is happening. I don't want things to affect me so much, and it's great because I'm not feeling, like much pain, which feels great. Like not feeling pain, not feeling the weight of the world like on your shoulders. And as I said, like I'm living happier and healthier as a consequence. So yeah, I think this is going to be it for this video, a little update on my situation, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm actually happy about the fact that I'm still here. And I don't know, like little things have been kind of like piling up here and there, but for the most part I've been able to ignore them. And really small things, nothing significant, but it's the type of stuff that like it would kind of like ruin my day, at previous time. So it's good that I'm just like looking away, and it's okay if like right after I have a little moment where I'm like, what, fuck you, like you you can kind of like go fuck yourself, get this energy out of here. But it is one of those things that I don't know, like nothing is unanimous, regarding humanity. Like there'll be no such thing as a uniform or unison, approval of things. So and I think that I feel like sometimes like I have tried to be that person. I try to mold myself in a way, not because I care too much, but I think we all want respect, admiration, like recognition for who we are and the things that we do. And that is something that is kind of like worth considering, because when I was younger, when I was like, I'm thinking about myself in my teenage years in high school, and basically like that is something that I really craved. And there's also like two levels to this, because sometimes you want to be recognized as a person, but you also want your accomplishments to be recognized. And sometimes they're kind of like the same, but sometimes like it's different. And I feel like when I was younger, I would feel like want to be acknowledged more for the things that my accomplishments. And like as I got older and I realized I'm trying to that were not like the accomplishments that I wish I had, they were not really happening. I think I changed to kind of like want then approval for like who I was as a person, because that's kind of like the next best thing, because your accomplishments, they can show lots of things. They can show resilience. They can show cunningness. Cunningness is a word. They can show dexterity. So I think that I wanted to be all those things, but there were the insecurities and trauma, and then I couldn't really be those things. So I wanted to be at least be perceived as that, because it's kind of like the next best thing, be seen as something. Because also, like, if you're seeing something, you can kind of like mask in like that perception, and you can fool yourself into thinking that like you are that thing. But yeah, so I like to think that I don't really care about what people think about me. And to be fair, like, there are lots of things that I don't really care, like people think positively or negatively about me, but there are some things that I do care. It's interesting because, like, I think that it was kind of like an onion, thinking about myself at 20, for example, and how I was, there were so many things that I wanted to be, and I think that the more confident I got, like, the more I was able to process my traumas, the less things there were, for me to feel this way. But there's still something, and that's pretty much when I was like, I don't care about being universally liked, but I would like to be, for example, universally respected. I would like even, people who only have negative things, to say about me, that they would, like, respect me, or at least my work ethic, my moral, like, or, something. I want to kind of like, appeal to, in some ways, that, as I said, there are some things that I don't really care about being perceived as that or not. For example, good is one thing that I don't really care, about. Maybe this is a problem. Maybe I should care more about this, but I don't. Like, whether somebody thinks that I'm good or bad is something that doesn't bother me. Also, opinions, it's kind of like interesting, because I've said opinions on my appearance, and there are many things about it that I don't care, but there are some things that I do care, and it's pretty much what I've been learning lately. So, for example, my tattoos, I don't really care, if somebody says negative things about them, about the fact that I have them. Like, that's something that doesn't bother me. Things like, for example, my hair, I like colorful hair, so I know some people don't like it, and that also, like, it doesn't bother me if somebody doesn't like my hair. Or my makeup, for example, my height, there are things that I'm just like, okay. I mean, some of them, like, I've never cared from the get-go, but some of them, like, I've learned not to care. For example, my height. But for example, my weight, like, that is something that it bothers me. So when somebody says something about that, it still kind of bothers me, because it's something that I'm, like, not in love with about myself, something that I want to fix. And I know that this could be an exercise of me accepting myself more. Like, maybe this is kind of like the return of, this could be like a learning lesson, and because sometimes appearance is kind of like, it can be said as superficial, but at the end of the day, like, people do judge books by the cover. So if you want to kind of like want something, for example, if you want to present yourself as, like, for example, a competent person who is industrious in a professional setting, that can be pretty good. And naturally, like, the way you look doesn't necessarily interfere with that, but it is kind of like the thing about perception, as I said. And there's something you can't control, so you do have to accept it to some extent, and I also, like, I think that things that are more uncomfortable for you, like, they are going to hurt more, like the way people perceive. It's kind of like an extension of that. So for example, I'm giving the example of my weight. Like, that is something that I have to just kind of accept. And I will say that this time around, because a few years ago I put on a lot of weight because of medication I was taking, and that just really plummeted my self-esteem. Like, I really let myself go. It also didn't help that I was going through, like, a depressive episode. Like, so basically that happened. And now this time around, when I'm putting on weight, like, I'm putting more of an effort into, like, how I look, like, so I'm still pretty kind of like confident. So I'm still kind of like putting on makeup, dressing nicely, having accessories, this type of thing. And it's kind of like interesting how, like, it is having a positive effect. I'm still not happy about my weight. That's still something I want to change, but I'm not hating myself as much as I used to, in the other time that I put on weight. So like, it's kind of like I'm learning something. I'm learning to love myself, regardless of the things that I'm insecure about. And yeah, as I said, like, I'm happier with what I look like right now, even if I'm not fully happy. And I think that has to do with, like, the effort I'm putting, the effort that I'm making to, like, not give up, because sometimes, like, things happen that they just make you give up. And I think that, like, earlier this week I was having a very defeatist attitude, and I think that like that was kind of like just sending me, on a downward spiral, because I was basically, I was very frustrated, and I was kind of like wanting to give up, but not even like, yeah, wanting to give up, but not like, because wanting to give up, it can be healthy, if there are some fixations that we have that, like it just works, but basically there are some times where like it is kind of like negative. I don't want to give up, which is why I'm still making an effort. I think there's small things, for example, making your bed, like that is something that you can do, that when I'm tired and depressed, like I don't do that. So exercising is a good example, like as I make an effort, in the way you look, there's also another example. So I'm kind of like developing these habits, small things, but things that kind of like go a long way when it comes to you being when it comes to like your life, like you having a routine can be very helpful. So like I've been trying to make these small changes in my life, and I think that they're working out. I think that I'm seeing a positive change in my overall attitude because of that. And I think that sometimes, even if you're for example depressed, there are some things like do what you can. If you can do something, like don't push it, but try to find your limits, try to find like how far you can go. So there's that. But yeah, so in sum, life has been good for me this past couple of days. It wasn't so good the other days, but like my because I'm bipolar, and I think that sometimes I shift too quickly, and that is something that has always made it hard for me to kind of like stabilize, because like one moment I'm taking a certain medication, and then it sends me to an extreme, and then we change it, and then sends me to the other extreme, and I keep going back and forth. The best that we've been able to do is kind of like make sure that I don't go to the extremes. I'm still, like as I said, a little depressed, a little manic, but there is this back and forth. And I will say, like I'm not having these thoughts of death today, but earlier this week, like the end of like last week and earlier this week, I was having those thoughts. But even then, like it wasn't a very controlled way. Like I wasn't, because usually when I'm depressed, like, and I start having thoughts of death, what really suits me is actually planning and to carry that out, which is not ideal, it's not a good strategy, but it is something that my brain does, and it does make me, it suits me, like it makes me feel better. So I was having those thoughts, but I wasn't planning, like I wasn't thinking about how to kind of like do anything. So like that's good, that's growth, because the thing is, like ultimately, like I'm always going to have episodes, even if I don't have for a little while, like it's kind of like just the nature of things. So I think accepting that is important, because it makes you more observant of what's happening, because you're trying to avoid not only avoiding to having an episode, but also making sure that the behaviors that you have as a consequence, they're not as heavy and permanent and risky as they could be. So that is part of like this reality. But what I wanted to say is that there is this level, I want to be a more resilient person, because as I said, like sometimes I get very defeatist about things, and then I start thinking about that. So I want to like even when the thoughts come, because they're gonna come regardless, so you have to learn how to deal with it, like deal with them, to kind of like process them in a way that it is not like just giving up. So, and I do think that I've been able to develop some resilience lately, and this is going to go a long way. And I think that as a consequence, my self-control is better. Like that is something that like it's making a huge difference. And also, and I think that it has, as I said, like processing things better, it can lead to like when processing them better, like having like less risky moments, risky both like when I'm up here and when I'm down here, and that is like all that I can hope for sometimes. But yeah, so that's it. Oh yeah, also I got new tattoos. I got them this Tuesday, and then next Monday I got like one side of like my calf, and I'm going to have the other side this Monday. And I got this one, which is a quote from Paradise Lost. It says, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven," which is my second favorite quote from the book. The first one is like, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." Like that quote changed my life, so I want to get it. But my dad was kind of like, I think that at some point I'm going to get, because I don't really have a plan, like how many tattoos I'm gonna get. They mark like my story, they mark my history. These are things that I believe in, things that happen, things like lessons I've learned, all of that. So basically I'm going to keep going as long as I'm living, because I'm learning things. And so yeah, at some point, if I get a chance, something I would like to get. I saw one time, it was really beautiful, that it was like right here, and but like that is something that I have to talk to my dad, and he has to have a lot of preparation, because he does not like that quote. And so basically that is a quote that like it changed my life, as I said. So I've been thinking about getting a tattoo since I was like 15. I'm 28 now, so it's been 13 years of me wanting this, and so I can wait some more years, but yeah. So that's the other one. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it. These are the wheels of Ezekiel. This is like an angel as described by the Bible in the book of Ezekiel. And these tattoos, like I remember like just seeing the drawing for the first time, and I found them to be so beautiful. Like they really appeal to me, which was an interesting thing. I have been finding that like the older I get, the more, because I've been thinking about getting tattoos that they come from like images that I like. Like my next tattoos after this one is going to be on my arms, like my inner forearms, and I'm already composing it, because there are going to be 6 elements, 3 on each side. So I'm still kind of like planning, and each element, like it is something, like it means something to me. But some of the appeal that I have from that is the beauty, and it's not necessarily that like this conventional beauty, because some things, they're kind of ugly. There's like one tattoo that I have on my back. One of the elements is the picture of Saturn eating his son, and a lot of people I'll say that like like that, you could say that it's kind of like ugly, not just because of the action, like the style, but I've always found that to be really beautiful. So that is something that I got. So basically something I'm noticing like now in my old age, that I'm being things that capture sometimes I don't understand why is that some images capture like that so well. For example, I would like to get on my other side like the Last Supper. It wouldn't be it probably would just be kind of like simplified, but that is a painting that I really like. I grew up religious. I'm not religious anymore, but still then like there's something so captivating about it. And I think that there is like the symbolism, the meaning, but ultimately, so yes, I don't even know how to fully describe it, but it does something to me. It moves me basically, and I found that like I'm getting, maybe just like consequence of getting older, things move me more. Like it's not that they didn't move me when I was younger, but like right now there's something there that used to be there before for me. I think that I'm more sensitive that way. I'm a generally sensitive person, and I think that right now I'm kind of like stronger because there's less trauma to kind of like drag me down. But like that was something that for the longest time, like I was very vulnerable. So I think you can be sensitive without being vulnerable, which is something that I think is starting to click in my brain. That I can be I can be sensitive to things, but like those things, they don't have to hurt. Like the thing with empathy is that like you're kind of like feeling some of the pain, but not in a way that's kind of like ruining your life or ruining your day. I think that you can be controlled that way, and that's pretty much what I've been discovering with life. Now the wheels, they are from, as I said, from the book of Ezekiel in the Bible, and like the image has always kind of like had an appeal to me. And I do have a sentence that is saying, which is okay, Dum Mitwad, which is it's not from Caligula, but it's kind of like associated, and it's from, I forgot who it's from, but basically it translates to let them hate so long as they fear. And maybe like because this is another quote that when I first saw it, I had like a little app, my notes app, like I have a little note that's just like quotes that I like and that I would that means something to me, and this is one that like maybe it doesn't reflect so much me anymore, because I'm getting healthier, but like this was something that really exemplified the way I kind of like approach things, because as I said, I was talking about like approval and like me, maybe not approval, but being respected, and having my competence be kind of like universal, because you cannot be liked by everybody, but I wanted some attributes that I have to be universally regarded, respected, and because as I said, like the whole thing of like being liked, I don't care so much about that, to be honest. Well, there are other things that I do care about, and basically when I was younger, I was I wanted, to be feared. I really wanted that. I think that you could argue that there is, something there in my brain that, made me crave that. And I mean, trauma is, something that can really be, can be kind of like, can lead to, like you developing in certain ways that you wouldn't have if you didn't have that trauma. And I think that, like the trauma I had when I was working with an SA situation, and it made me feel very weak, very vulnerable. So I kind of like, after that, I vowed to kind of like never feel like that again, never feel, like that I was weak. And that kind of like completely changed my outlook on life and the way I presented myself and the things that I wanted. I had this, fantasy that was there since I was 11, and then at 21 was when I was finally able to let go. But I will say, so like it happened before the situation, because I was 13, but I feel like after, that situation, the way that I approached life, things changed. So what I wanted, it also became harsher, and like more of a response to how I felt in that moment. And I think I felt scared, during that situation. I think that vulnerability, that weakness, it made me kind of like, really, I never wanted to feel like that again. So because of that, I wanted to kind of like project the opposite. So I feared. So I wanted to be feared, because if I'm feared, like I'm not going to be as exposed to situations. People are not gonna fuck with me, because people are kind of like scared. So basically, like this is, as I said, the sentence that the moment I saw that, I was like, this is probably going to my skin someday. So yeah, so it's not so much like how I feel about things right now, but this is part of my history. This is something that for so long was the truth for me. And I'm happy that I was finally able. And to me, like dissociation with the wheels is because, like, it's kind of like, as I said, like it's beautiful, but it's also something that inspires fear. It's something that that, as I said, that inspires fear. It is, yeah, because like you can be fearful because you're, for example, ugly, because like you're kind of like have this monstrosity element to you. But I don't want to be a monster. I think there was a point where I wanted, and it was not really helped by the environment that I was in, which I was sad that there was something wrong with me, the way that I was, and there were some harsh words said here and there, such as abomination. Like that was one that kind of like really hurt in a way. But yeah, so I think that I ended up like internalizing some things when I was younger. Like I was like, I'm gonna. But yeah, I think I kind of like wanted to be a monster of sorts. Something awe-inspiring, but also something beautiful, because there is beauty to monsters. There is beauty. There's beauty to everything and anything. Like you just have to kind of like, I don't know, I think they'll have different sensibilities, and like that informs the way that we process things, the way that we consume things, and how they impact us. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this up right now. So anyways, bye.